Welcome to this week's aha moments with myself, Adrienne Lopez, the Integrative Awareness Coach. How you all doing today? Happy Wednesday. How's your week? How's your week shaping up? Today I wanted to talk to you about what I described in the description. It says that we often, we often sorry. I'm just sending a message real quick, so give me one sec, okay? And I'll be right back. Awesome. All right, I'm back. My apologies. Really, what I wanted to talk to you about this week is what what it what it means to be a traveler, to have both a body and a spirit, a mind and a heart, and how we get to navigate this with incredible care and honor and self-love. Because this experience isn't always easy. And as I wrote in the description, it often comes with carrying deeply personal struggles such as depression or anxiety, um, loss, addiction, um, relationships, codependency, physical illness, mental illness. And then there's parts of our experience that go unnamed because we might not have had the internal resources or the ability to actually look at the entirety of our experience. And this can make many of us feel alone and rip us out of the present moment because of, this whole process in our head. And there is a price to pay from overthinking, being over identified with the mental process. And I wrote today in my journal something I wanted to share with you. I said there are emotional ramifications of forgetting the truth, of too much thinking, of cutting yourself off, detaching yourself from your emotions and your experience. Um, yeah, so that's what I wrote. And it came from the idea that we inhabit this vast field. I'm going to call it the creative field of being. We have all of this experience happening outside of us, you know, cars driving by, flowers, bees, people, um, our body, whether it's behaving or not, whether it's feeling good or bad. And then we have all of our internal experience, which is invisible. It is the sensations running through our body, our emotions, our thoughts, um, the the reaction of our thoughts, and the whole cascade of biochemical reactions that are often unconscious. And so I am telling you this, my dear listener or watcher, because you are an incredible, magnificent um, machine, I don't like to see machine because there's no machine that can operate like a human. That is alivened through life force, and then the physical mechanism that holds that, that houses that. And I think this week I changed my tagline or my motto for um, my Facebook page, letting the mind and the body and the soul work and move in unison. Like, what does that take? And so that there's not internal conflict or this stress going back and forth. And that causes detachment and separation from self. Um, and so, how can we learn to flow on the process of life in a way that's in service to our well being? And, how can we reimagine the well of being, which includes all aspects of ourselves, not just our physical body, but our physical body is a um, manifestation of our psychological, our emotion, our internal um, climate, and that all of these parts of us are subtly bound and connected. And the mind, in all of its wisdom, has often cut us off from our own life energy in order to survive. But now that we know that there's another option outside of the survival brain, that I can stop acting out of my wounding or my struggle to feel safe or to survive, and that there's a whole new level in which I can know myself, I can know others, I can create a sense of community and love and belonging. That's not based on judgment. And there's a difference between judgment and discernment, you know, that many of us have been ill educated, poorly educated, incompletely educated about this whole operating system that we live in, how it works, and um, and how we can work with it intentionally and on purpose to create a sense of internal harmony and, as I mentioned, well-being. And so, my friends, this really, I was just thinking about how I wanted to say this. It's really like, if you look out in the world today, we have opposition. You know, if you're a QAnon person or however you say it, you're like, oh, look at all these poor sheep that are being um, brainwashed, right? Watching, I don't know, CNN. And then on the other side, you have all these other people. I don't know what you want to call them, liberals. I don't even know if that's the oppositional term to QAnon, but for, example purposes, illustrative purposes, they're like, oh, those poor QAnon people that are watching, Fox News or whatever they watch. And I don't want to insult anyone, and I don't want to make any generalizations. I'm simply giving an example of these disparate, disparate constructs of reality where, and I know that you've had this experience because I've had it myself, where I see somebody post something, for example, on Facebook, and it's so counter to my experience of reality, it just makes me go, hmm, hmm, wow, okay. Um, and I used to be in the phase where I would actually react to something to try to get somebody to see my perspective. But I came to a point, I don't know how many years ago now, where I realized um, it's a mute point. because these disparate realities are based on um, a defense mechanism and a survival mechanism. And that is no longer viable. It's no longer tenable. Um, it's it's a reaction to a lower level of reality that is um, based on conflict. It's based on opposition. It's based on dividing oneself from each other, and it's dying out. It's like a dinosaur, and it's like crumbling, and but it's causing quite a ruckus as it's going out. And because we are being called to a new level of evolution that is not based on these polar opposites, that aren't based on identity or self, based on I have to defend my position, and I can't appreciate where your view of the world because it threatens mine. It's a threat mentality, like my identity is being threatened, and you know that, like on a very fundamental basis, animalistic basis, if an animal feels threatened, they'll attack. But we have been given these beautiful gifts of brains and emotions and higher order thinking skills and reason. And what happens when we get all three parts of our brain in alignment? What happens when we get all three parts of our body, our mind, and our soul moving in unison? That internal conflict is no longer available, it's no longer an option, and then there is wholeness within, and then that wholeness is projected out in the world in how we interact with people. And we see that everyone's position, everyone's view of the world has value and can add to the mosaic of how we see the world. And there's no longer a need to fight, to feel threatened, but to be inclusive and to add into what is possible, like an extra added plus. And so, my friends, uh, how does this conflict manifest? It manifests in our lives as um, depression, illness, financial problems, um, whatever the pain that is manifesting in your life. Um, it is a symptom of a more deeply held dis-ease in the body, in the psyche, internally. And so this is the basis and synthesis of non-dualism, that everything that we see outside of us is actually a reflection of ourselves, but our consciousness, until trained to see correctly, is seen through unhealed eyes. So it's not able to recognize itself outside in the world, in another person, in another person's struggle, in another person's pain, and that we are, all of us, are having a shared experience here in consciousness because it is one field. It is the creative field of all that is. And there's no need to fight about what version of reality is correct, um, except that each facet of consciousness is another aspect of reality. And we could go on and on about this, right? People would ask all questions, well, what about people that want to cause harm? Well, people that want to cause harm are disconnected from their own inner well of being. And the only way is life turned against itself. How does life get turned against itself? If I harm that person, I will get relief from my own inner hell, which of course isn't true. It just magnifies it. And so the truth is what that person's wanting is relief from their own internal processes that are causing them suffering, that they are projecting out onto a person, an object, an organization, a government, you name it. And so if we continue to fight in this duality, cements it in place. When in actuality, when we begin to realize that this old model is no longer viable, in fact, it probably never was, but it was a step in our evolution. And now we're ready to move beyond that into a higher level of expression that includes the totality of our being, not just part of ourselves, but all of ourselves. And whatever that pain is in your life, as I mentioned, the long list, like everyone's going through their own deeply personal experience with their own level of suffering. Nobody gets out of here without suffering. But the point is how do I get to hold myself? How do I get to hold others in a gesture of wholeness, which is love? Like complete and utter love. Like I get to accept all of me. I get to accept all of you, even the parts that are triggering my wound, even those parts I get to hold because they're a reflection of me. And I no longer get to blame, shame, guilt, and humiliate. It's no longer an option because it just prolongs my own pain, my own separation from self. And so, my friends, whatever you are experiencing at this moment, whatever might be causing you pain, um, I just wanted to let you know that um, you are not alone, first of all. And two, that symptom, that pain in your body, is pointing to something that consciousness would like you to see, whether it's a belief, an idea, a story that you made up about reality, that ego mind made it up out of a sense of survival and then continue to reproduce it because it thought, well, if it was true now, it has to be true forever. But that's not the case, right? It takes those stories, those beliefs, those ideas take us out of the present moment. They take us away from what we're feeling at this moment, right here, right now. That's fully alive at this moment, not in the past, not when we were 10, not when we were 2, right? Which is a lot where our personality structure got put into place. And these personality structures are worldviews. They're perspectives about the way the world is. I should say about the way the world was. And not so much about the way the world was, about who we were when we were perceiving it. So if I'm 5 years old and my physical safety is being threatened, you can imagine a story that would be made up about the world and my place in it. I'm powerless. The world's dangerous. I'm not safe. Nobody loves me. I don't matter. Those are the top 5. That the ego, that's all the ego's got, because that's its job, is to protect you no matter what. And it is fierce. It will do anything to protect you, even tell you lies. Because the truth is so much bigger than what the ego can even imagine. And yet, most of our lives are believed or built on that level of partial truth, inaccurate information. And then as adults, it gets stacked, it gets layered and stacked, layered and stacked, layered and stacked, and repressed and forgotten about. And then we look around at our worlds and we look around at our lives and we can see the outcome of all that packing, stacking, and packing. And that's in our physical bodies, like hardened into our physical bodies. It gets impressed into our emotional waters in the cellular level, and it becomes the word becomes flesh. The belief becomes embodied. And so, because we're such amazing, creative, vital beings, we can step into that creative process and elevate it to a higher level, the highest octave available, which is above the survival consciousness in which we've been living in for God knows how long. So, my friends, that is my invitation to you. And I've talked about this in many different ways. It's something I would call instantaneous transformation. And although it's not going to change your entire life in one moment, it is a place to start instantaneously at any moment that you would like. You can begin to transform the way you've been relating to this one beautiful life that you have. No matter what's showing up on the horizon of your experience, it is a product of life wanting to serve life, even if it's been distorted, even if it's been turned in upon itself out of confusion, out of fear, right? That's what happens, that those negative emotions end up, especially if they're not felt, which is highly unlikely in our society. A lot of us don't get to feel our emotions because they're not appropriate. They upset others. And I'm not talking about irresponsibly expressing our emotions. I'm talking about responsibly expressing our emotions with compassion and honor for ourselves and others in a way that's not blaming others for our experience, but taking responsibility for our own experience. And our experience of the world was constructed by our ego mind. And so now that we know this, now that this truth has been revealed, we're empowered to start living in a different way, to start living through choice instead of reacting. So I think I'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you did, um, leave a comment, an emoji. Please feel free to share. And let me know what you're experiencing right now on your horizon of your life. And sometimes it's hard to get a clear um, view, let's say. So this is the kind of work that I do with my clients in my coaching work. And all of us can use support. I have coaches, plural. I have personal coaches. I have business coaches. I have um, many resources that I have built around me in order to allow me to make this journey to increase not only my own personal growth, but how I impact and support others. So, um, so yeah, so I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope that you heard something today that resonated with you. If you did, please like, share, let me know what resonated with you, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday at the same time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for my weekly aha moments. And I plan to have my weekly podcast um, um, published by tomorrow, and I will post that on all of my social media venues. And if you have any special requests in regards to topics or any area of your life that you're wanting some more clarity or support with, please let me know. You can leave a comment or you can direct message me. Okay? All right. Bye for now.